Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praise, it's the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who was the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives us more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand events that are currently happening on the earth. So we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Rather, we're getting into some more information coming out of ISIS Unveiled. And it just kind of gives us an opportunity to go into some deeper topics. See, when you're in church and they just read stories to you, you don't really think about the translations or the deeper meanings, or realizing that there's a lot of esoteric and exoteric information being shared in certain scriptures, and you just kind of just read over that. And see, that's why the churches have hidden much of this esoteric information, because they don't want you to realize that there's a lot of concepts, esoteric concepts, that are actually in the Bible. Things that you're going to see today that are going to prove that Yahweh Shai, or what they like to call Jesus, was a Kabbalist. He had this deeper understanding. So many of the things that you read about, many of the actions that you read about, have deeper meanings than just the things that the churches have wanted to share. Now, some of the information, is maybe for someone else who's watching the video. I don't pretend to know or understand all this information, but it might be confirmation to someone out there, something that you're studying, something the Most High is exposing to you. And then maybe it's a confirmation to you, and maybe you can share your thoughts in the description box. Well, in the comment section. This is like an interactive channel. We can get other people to bring their expertise and their information and put it in the comment section, as long as you're allowed to post it. You know how that goes. Okay? We're going to be getting into ISIS Unveiled. And I like to put this out there so people realize, that this is a very rare book. And the thing is, some people say, well, we don't need the books. We've been given a lot of this information, and that's true. But trust me, there's a lot of information that the Most High wants to confirm in different ways. Most High wants to bring out a lot of this information that exposes these churches. We've always wondered, like, why are they hiding these books? Why do they burn all these books? What are they trying to hide? Now the Most High has given us those answers to what are they trying to hide. If these books were not a threat to these churches, to the Catholic and the Christian churches, then they would have easily just let this information kind of go out there and explained it away. But they didn't do that. They prefer to not even let people have access to this information, have access to these books, because they know that they can't explain it away. See, you see how the Most High is exposing the European countries, exposing America right now with this whole war going on in the Ukraine and Russia? How every time Russia does something, the United States makes accusations and tries to act like they have the moral high ground. And I was listening to Paul and Adrian yesterday, and he was just talking about how, he's always prefacing everything he says with, well, I love America. I don't like the politics. I love America, but I just don't like the politics. And it's like, bro, you can't have it both ways. You can't sit there and say, I love America, but I hate all of the actions that America is taking. Because he's talking about how they've gone to all these different countries and they twist their arms to pretty much follow or do what they're told. He was talking about how, they had all these sanctions on Turkey because Turkey had gotten the S-400 from Russia. So therefore, they had all these, sanctions on Turkey. But now the United States wanted Turkey to do something for them. They pretty much, hey, you're our friend again, and we'll take those sanctions off now. But this is what the United States has been doing, twisting the arms of other countries to do their bidding. And this is nothing new. It's just now the Most High is bringing that to the forefront, and people are seeing the hypocrisy. Now, the country doing it is one thing. The churches have been doing the exact same thing. So you got people that are always telling you with these churches and these apologists, and they're talking about, oh, the black Hebrew Israelites, they're a cult, they're this, they're evil, they're a hate group. And who are the people that are telling you that? The churches. And you're trying to tell me that the church is in the hate group? The church doesn't hate anyone that does not follow their denomination? The church doesn't pretty much say that if you're not with our group, you're going to hell? And unless you do everything the way we say, you're going to go to hell? And instead of using sanctions, they use fear. They use the fact that if you don't do what we say, you have no hope. As if somehow they have the keys to heaven. And that only them, only they're the ones that are going to make it. And they're the only ones that have the true path to heaven. So the hypocrisy that the Most High is exposing with the nation right now, with the America, with the Europeans, he's doing the exact same thing with these churches. Now, see, many people are like, well, yeah, we know that the churches are evil. We know that the churches, have made a lot of mistakes, but then they continue to follow them. They continue to put their faith in these churches. And see, that's why the Most High is raising up his people. That's why the Most High is giving us this information. Because it's like, hey, that's not going to be an option. You're not going to be able to use I didn't know as, your blanket of security. When you get ready to go in front of the Most High and you're going to say, oh, well, I didn't know the church did this. I didn't know the church's history. I didn't know that. Yeah, he's going to be like, yeah, you did. I sent my people to give you all this information. Now, if you've ignored it willingly, if you're willfully being ignorant, then that's on you. But the Most High is bringing this information out. He's exposing the churches. He's exposing these nations. He's bringing out the books that they've burned. He's bringing out the information that they've hidden. So that now, if you continue to follow these churches, he's just putting those nails in the coffin for you. See, before you like, well, I don't have access to this information. I don't have access to these books. I don't know. Well, now the Most High is bringing out this information. So you don't have an excuse. You cannot use the willfully ignorant, I didn't know, oh, those books weren't given to me, or no one told me about those books. Yeah, we've been telling you. We're telling you about the Apocrypha. We're telling you, you can go and get those things online. You can get PDFs of a lot of these books. They might be missing some information, but you can still get access to some of it. We have the website at bigjudah.com where it's got a lot of access. It got access to a lot of books that you can download and you can read for yourself. There's a lot of notes that you can go and download. The Sister Cassandra has set up that you guys can go and download. Okay? Then you guys can download. There's like 10 of them. You can download and look at all the notes from earlier videos, and you can read and study from many different books. Get a lot of different information, and that's all out there for you to be able to get exposed to. So there's not going to be an excuse for a lot of these people who are trying to, hey, when you know that you're wrong, but you want to stay comfortable, you're comfortable in the lies. That's what you see the vast majority of the world is in. They're comfortable in the lies. They're comfortable, not knowing, because they know that if they have to go out and do some work, there's going to be some actions that are going to be necessary on their parts, and a lot of them are not willing to take those actions. Just like when people say, like Paul, oh, I still love my country. I love my country. I just hate the politics. Well, the Most High is like, hey, this is the history of your country. You're going to have to make a stand. You're going to have to make a stand for right and wrong. And this goes for all you Christians. You're not going to be able to say, well, I didn't know about the history. Yes, you do. You guys all know about the history of your Christian churches. You know the history about your Catholic. You can't sit there and talk about the Catholics and then act like the Christians don't do the same thing. The Christian churches were used to pretty much be a blanket for slavery. They used for justification for slavery. That wasn't the Catholic. The Catholic Church did it for the Catholics, but you Christians, you guys did it for the Christians over here. You gave cover for these people to rape, rob, and murder the children of Israel. You made it okay. You know that being 3/5 of a man was not right. When you're saying all men are created equal, but then your churches are like, well, 3/5 of a man's okay. They're 3/5 of a man, so therefore you can do whatever you want to them. It's okay for you to go ahead and sell them. It's okay for you to go ahead and rape them. They're just property, work them to death. You can't keep saying, oh, I love my country, I love this, I love that. And that means you love that history. That means you love all the things they did to the children of Israel. Because you got to take the good with the bad. You're all talking about how proud you are of all the things that they've done. Well, then you better be proud of all the horrible things that this country and these churches have done as well. Because you're going to have to pay for all of that. So that's your choice. You're going to have to pay also for taking our scriptures, okay, and manipulating them, manipulating understanding, manipulating information. That's your church too. Your churches have done this. See, this whole thing with like the 10 commandments or the churches acting as if somehow, they're telling you how you're going to get to heaven. It's like, hold on, your organization, your church organizations, it doesn't matter if you're Catholic or Christian, do not believe in the 10 commandments. They do not follow the 10 commandments. They break every single one of them. So if your organization that you follow is pretty much breaking all the commandments, how in the hell are they supposed to teach you how to get to heaven? Which commandments do your churches keep? Which commandments do your churches keep? Hold on real fast. I mean, just think about that. They've killed people, right? They condone murder. They condone coveting. They condone stealing. I mean, which commandments, do they keep? They condone adultery because we're 3/5 of a man, so therefore you guys have been able to sleep with our wives, rape our wives. So your churches condone adultery. They condone stealing because they condone, hey, it's okay for you to go and put a flag on someone else's land and take over that land. Thou shalt not kill. You got your churches and your countries have killed hundreds of millions, if not billions of people. Thou shalt not covet. Have you not coveted our lands? Have you not coveted our women? Have you not coveted our men? Have you not coveted our children? I mean, come on. I mean, like I said, which commandments do your churches follow? They don't have any other gods before me. Yeah, you have white Jesus. That was not even that. That was not. That's another God. Remember, you can't bring in another Jesus. You should have graven images. You have graven images all over your churches. I mean, you just go through it and just think about it. I mean, you guys don't follow any of them. Your churches do not follow any of the commandments. But then they're the ones that want to say, oh, Black Hebrew Israelites, they're evil. They're this, they're that. Hold on, man. You don't follow any commandments. You don't follow anything in the Bible. You do everything the opposite. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You bear false witness. You giving us fake, false identities. You've made up an entire, different history. You putting people in all these different lands that aren't theirs. You've given them histories that aren't theirs. Honor your father and your mother. Have you taught that, to your people, to honoring your father and mother? Do they honor the Most High? Do they honor the Holy Spirit? Do they keep the Sabbath day holy? They change the Sabbath day. They do a different day. In the coveting, hey, you guys were in the three parts. You were coveting the fourth part. You wanted your time to control the fourth part. That you were coveting that forever. Because that was something that you could not come to. You were not allowed to come to the fourth part. So like I said, so an organization that pretty much prides itself on not keeping any of the 10 commandments is somehow in a has a moral high ground to tell you what is godly and what is not. Does that make any sense whatsoever? See, they use the 10 commandments against us. They tell us, oh, you need to keep these 10 commandments. We don't. You need to follow these 10 commandments when it comes to how you treat us. You Israelites need to follow these 10 commandments in regards to how you treat us Gentiles. But us Gentiles don't have to follow any of these commandments when it's concerning you. They will try to, honor some of these commandments when it's between Gentile and Gentile. But when it's Gentile to Hebrew Israelite, oh hell no. Nah. We're not honoring that at all. That's why when they shoot us down, when a cop shoots us down, what is it? Oh, well, we need to find out what the whole story. Don't rush to judgment. Why? I thought we follow the commandments, eye for an eye. No, 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 no. We need to make sure we get all the information first. And how often are they ever pretty much held to account? Almost never. Why is that? Because the 10 commandments don't apply to us. So like I said, so a lot of you people who are still in these churches, just because the pastor dresses nice, sounds smooth, sounds great, looks great, got the music playing, got you feeling all good and everything else, doesn't mean it's a godly place. Doesn't mean they're following the commandments. They're not teaching the people. They're hiding the information, hiding the truth. And every single commandment from the 10 commandments, they're breaking. Every time they call us African Americans, they're bearing false witness. Every time they call us black, bearing false witness. Afro Americans, bearing false witness. When they're using bywords to describe us, bearing false witness. Breaking a commandment. Refusing to tell the truth. Breaking commandments, bearing false witness. Telling you that the Apocrypha isn't part of the Bible, bearing false witness. You see what I'm saying? Like that's bearing false witness is huge, and they're doing it every day in many different facets of life. They murder us all the time and don't pay for it. So like I said, these people are not going to have the opportunity to continue to lie and to continue to ignore reality. So they can they can lie and ignore reality when it's between them, because none of them go to certain subjects. They refuse to go talk about slavery. They refuse to talk about all the treaties that they've broken. They refuse to talk about how they've stolen other people's lands, how they've coveted other people's lands. Just like when we used to watch politics and we used to watch when they used to have debates, the Democrats, the Republicans, or whatever else, or even when it was the same parties, there were just certain topics. It's like, why aren't you guys talking about this? But each group would just refuse to talk about because they know that it's a losing argument for both sides. So therefore, they just won't talk about it. See that with Christians all the time. They're not talking about 1492. They're not talking about all the death and destruction that they've brought worldwide. They're not talking about any of that. They refuse. They'll talk about, like Paul and them will talk about Iraq. He's only one of the few. Most of them won't even talk about that. At least Paul's talking about that. But most of them won't even bring that up. Because they already know it's a losing argument. They can't justify it. So they just ignore it. And that's why the Most High is raising us up to bring out this information, to bring out the topics that they refuse to talk about, so that when the Most High cracks these skies open, they will not have any recourse. Because the truth is right in their face. Now, they're choosing to ignore it. That's on them. That's on them. So right here, most of these books were destroyed by the Catholic and other Christian churches. Okay? And that's what they've done. We're going to read a little bit here. But a lot of this is for you guys to go and check out. You can read it and do some of the research on your own. Okay? Because, like I said, this information is not necessarily for, like I said, it's not for all of us. It's probably going to be for certain people that want to actually get into this. Okay? So I'll just leave it here, but you guys can check this part out here on your own. Talking about the Gnostics, portraits of Jesus and how they shouldn't have been having them. I'll read a little bit here. It says, this affords a fresh proof that the Gnostics and the early Orthodox Christians were not so wide apart in their secret doctrine. King deduces from a quotation from Epiphanius that even as late as 400 AD, it was considered an atrocious sin to attempt to represent the bodily appearance of Christ. Epiphanius brings it as an idolatrous charge against the Capricians, that they kept painted portraits in even gold and silver images and in other materials, which they pretended to be portraits of Jesus and made by Pilate after the likeness of Christ. These they keep in secret, along with Pythagoras, Plato, and others. See, they try to use like these dudes is like they're all part of this. They're always trying to get the Greeks in there. We already know that. Okay. Let's see here. And setting them all up together. They worship and offer sacrifices unto them after the Gentiles' fashion. Okay, so they got, these guys have been idol worshipers forever. It says, what would the pious Epiphanius say were he to resuscitate and step into St. Peter's Cathedral at Rome? Ambrosius seems also very desperate at the idea that some persons fully credited the statement of Lampridius that Alexander Severus had in his private chapel an image of Christ among other great philosophers. That the pagans should have preserved the likeness of Christ, he exclaims, but the disciples have neglected to do so, is a notion the mind shudders to entertain, much less to believe. Okay. You guys can read that bottom section there on your own. We can check out this part right here talking about the hair, okay, and the long hair and things like that. It says, in a pretended letter of Lentulus, a senator and a distinguished historian to the Roman Senate, there is a description of the personal appearance of Jesus. The letter itself, written in horrid Latin, is pronounced a bare-faced forgery. But we find therein an expression which suggests many thoughts. Albeit a forgery, it is evident that whosoever invented it has nevertheless tried to follow tradition as closely as possible. The hair of Jesus is represented in it as wavy and curly, flowing down upon his shoulders, and as having a parting in the middle of the head after the fashion of the Nazarenes. This last sentence shows that there was such a tradition based on the biblical description of John the Baptist, the Nazarea, and the custom of this sect. Had Lentulus been the author of this letter, it is difficult to believe that Paul should never have heard of it, and he known its contents, he would never have pronounced it a shame for men to wear their hair long, thus shaming the Lord and Christ God. If Jesus did wear his hair long and parted it in the middle of the forehead after the fashion of the Nazarenes, as well as John, the only one of his apostles who followed it, then we have one good reason more to say that Jesus must have belonged to the sect of the Nazarenes and been called Nazarea for this reason, and not because he was an inhabitant of Nazareth, for they never wore their hair long. The Nazarite who separated himself unto the Lord allowed no razor to come upon his head. He shall be holy and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. Says Numbers, 6 and 5. Samson was a Nazarite. He vowed to the service of God, and his hair was his strength. No razor shall come upon his head. The child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb. Okay? But the final and most reasonable conclusion to be inferred from this is that Jesus, who was so opposed to all the orthodox Jewish practices, would not have allowed his hair to grow had he not belonged to this sect, which in the days of John the Baptist had already become a heresy in the eyes of the Sanhedrin. Okay? So he was not down with the, popular groups at that time. And that's how most of the Israelites are even today. They're not down with the popular, religious groups of the times. The Talmud, speaking of the Nazarea or the Nazarenes who had abandoned the world like Hindu yogis or hermits, calls them a sect of physicians, of wandering exorcists. And talk about the those secret societies, and the one that was I was reading about the Aborigines and how they would travel around from place to place sharing their information, but there was like a hidden group, but they were just traveling around from place to place. Okay, same kinds of things going on right here. So of wandering exorcists, as also does Jervis. They went about the country, living on alms and performing cures. Epiphanius says that the Nazarenes come next in heresy to the Corinthians, whether having existed before them or after them, nevertheless synchronous, and then adds that all Christians at that time were equally called Nazarenes. So all these things, like all the Christians at that time, were like the Nazarenes, traveling around from place to place, or doing the kind of things they explain here, or how they kind of describe the Nazarenes. So again, all Christians at that time were equally called Nazarenes. Now check this part out. In the very first remark made by Jesus about John the Baptist, we find him stating that he is Elias, which was for to come. Now this is kind of showing you some of the exoteric understanding when there's certain things that are being said and there's deeper understanding. That's why they set up these pastors to tell you, oh, no, this is what this means. And they're just giving you that exoteric understanding, that very superficial understanding. But there's deeper, hidden, esoteric information, that's actually out here. And if you don't know what esoteric means, you might want to look that up. Don't be trusting other people's opinions, because they'll be just making up stuff, and then never actually correcting the false the false definitions that they've come up with, because it's all about giving. They have a certain dogma, they have a certain things they have to teach, they have a certain curriculum, they make up things, and then they never fix it. They never tell you the truth. They just make up whatever they want to make up and just roll with it. That's exactly what churches have always been doing, right? They made us think that the word exoteric is something evil. Like the word occult is something evil. When all it means is hidden. Occult just means hidden. An exoteric understanding is an understanding that only a few people will get. Only a few are going to understand this. And if you've been in this truth, is not exactly what we've been taught, that only a few are going to get it. Only a few are going to find the right path. Only a few are going to be called. That's all goes back to being esoteric. Has nothing to do with a philosophical debate. But like all churches, they just say things. We've all been with those pastors that just, talk for 2 hours, say all these different things, tell you a bunch of stories. We know half of it's a bunch of BS because they're just there for entertainment. And that's it. They're not there to get down to the, to the deeper things, to the esoteric things, to the spiritual things. So check this part out right here. Again, Elias, okay, which was for to come. This assertion, if it is not a later interpolation, for the sake of having a prophecy fulfilled, means again that Jesus was a Kabbalist. Unless indeed we have to adopt the doctrine of the French Spiritists and suspect him of believing in reincarnation, except the Kabbalistic sects of the Essenes, the Nazarenes, the disciples of Simeon ben Yochai and Hillel, neither the Orthodox Jews nor the Galileans believed or knew anything about the doctrine of permutation. And the Sadducees rejected even that of the resurrection. So let's check that out real fast. What is permutation? So I got to have a dictionary around, kind of, check things out. Permutation. Permutation. A way, especially one of several possible variations, in which a set or number of things can be ordered or arranged. Permutation is a mathematical calculation of the number of ways a particular set can be arranged, where the order of the arrangement matters. Okay. All right. So again, I knew nothing about the doctrine of permutation. Could be a different definition, because we already know all these words have multiple definitions. Oh, okay. So then the second one is the act or process of changing the lineal order of an ordered set of objects. Okay, or an ordered arrangement of a set of objects. Okay. All right. So I knew nothing about the doctrine of permutation, and the Sadducees rejected even that of the resurrection. But the author of this restitutionist was Mosa, our master, upon whom be peace, who was the revolutio, transmigration of Seth and Hebel, that he might cover the nudity of his father Adam, Primus, says the Kabbalah. Thus, Jesus hinting that John was the revolutio, or transmigration of Elias, seems to prove beyond any doubt the school of which he belonged. So just him even saying certain like that shows you that he's from different schools of thought. That he's more with these, the Kabbalistic school of thought. And there's many things that are hidden in the Bible that were said by Yahushua that shows that he's dealing with not just that superficial understanding that the churches speak, that the superficial understanding that the churches spread, but he's going into a much deeper understanding that will go over the vast majority of the world's head. And that's why I wanted to make sure I shared this. So in case if this is interesting to you, you can research it. You can check these kinds of things out. I hadn't really heard about this before, so you kind of get exposed to it. If it's not necessary for me to get, it might be for someone else to get. It might be something for for someone else to make connections to another book, to some other information. That's why I wanted to make sure I made this video and shared this information with you guys today. Okay, so until the present day, uninitiated Kabbalists and Masons believe permutation to be synonymous with transmigration and metapsychosis. But they are as much mistaken in regard to the doctrine of the true Kabbalists as that of the Buddhists. True, the Sohar says in one place, all souls are subject to transmigration. Men do not know the ways of the Holy One. Blessed be he. They do not know that they are brought before the tribunal, but both before they enter this world and after they quit it. And the Pharisees also held this doctrine, as Josephus shows right there in the Book of the Antiquities. It says also the doctrine of Gilgal held to the strange theory of the whirling of the soul, which taught that the bodies of Jews buried far away from the Holy Land, still preserve a particle of soul, which can neither rest nor quit them until it reaches the soil of the promised land. And this whirling process was thought to be accomplished by the soul being conveyed back through an actual evolution of species. Now, which is crazy if you think about Joseph, right? Joseph, he said, like, if you guys go back home, take my bones with you, take my body back home with you. Now it makes sense because they believed that the body needed to be back in the Holy Land. So, like I said, there's a deeper understanding or a deeper meaning with a lot of these actions that were in the Bible that we weren't even exposed to before. So not until I saw this, and the whole thing with about the soul and the spirit and everything else, did it start to make sense? Did it start to make those kinds of connections? So I'm sure the rest of the family will hear this and read this and make some more connections. But now it starts to make sense as to why they had to take the bones of Joseph back with them when after during the Exodus when they were going back to the Holy Land. Okay? So it says, and this whirling process was thought to be accomplished by the soul being conveyed back through an actual evolution of species, transmigration from the minutest insect up to the largest animal. But this was an exoteric doctrine. Okay? We refer the reader to the Kabbalah Denudata of Henry Kunrath. His language, however obscure, may yet throw some light upon the subject. Both this doctrine of permutation or revolutio must not be understood as a belief in reincarnation. That Moses was considered the transmigration of Abel and Seth does not imply that the Kabbalists, those who were initiated at least, believe that the identical spirit of either of Adam's sons reappeared under the corporeal form of Moses. It only shows what was the mode of expression they used when hinting at one of the profoundest mysteries of the Oriental Gnosis, one of the most majestic articles of faith of the secret wisdom. It was purposely veiled so as to half conceal and half reveal the truth. They're not trying to share all this information, so give you half of it, give you some of the truth, and conceal some of it because it wasn't for everyone. It implied that Moses, like certain other godlike men, was believed to have reached the highest of all states on earth, the rarest of all psychological phenomena. The perfect union of the immortal spirit with the terrestrial duad had occurred. The Trinity was complete. A God was incarnate, but how rare such incarnations. So a little bit more here. That expression, ye are gods, which to our biblical students is a mere abstraction, has for the Kabbalists a vital significance. Each immortal spirit that sheds its radiance upon a human being is a god. The microcosmos of the macrocosmos, part of the parcel of the unknown God, the first cause of which is a direct emanation. It is possessed of all the attributes of its parent source. Among these attributes are omniscience and omnipotence. Okay, endowed with these, but yet unable to fully manifest them while in the body, during which time they are obscured, veiled, limited by the capabilities of physical nature, and thus divinely inhabited man may tower far above his kind, evince a godlike wisdom, and display deific powers, for while the rest of the mortals around him are but overshadowed by the divine self. With every chance given to them, them to become immortal hereafter, but no other security than their personal efforts to win the kingdom of heaven. The so chosen man has already become an immortal while yet on earth. His prize is secured. Henceforth he will live forever in eternal life. Not only he may have dominion over all the works of creation by employing the excellence of the name, the ineffable one, but be higher in this life, not, as Paul is made to say, a little lower than the angels. And you guys can check out the rest of that on your own. But like I said, but this information that just kind of gives you a much deeper understanding and lets you just kind of open your mind to think about things. Not let these, these churches and these pastors and these priests, hold you down from chasing after the Most High. Hold you down from chasing after this esoteric knowledge. Not make you feel as if, if you're chasing after more of this knowledge and understanding, that it is somehow evil. It's evil to the demiurge, because the demiurge is trying to keep you in a comatose state. The demiurge and his demons, that's what they've been doing, keeping the people in a comatose state. Now the Most High has come to give us more knowledge and more life abundantly. And the ones that are ready for that, the ones that are called to that, that's exactly what they are doing. All praise is the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom, family.